He was supposed to become one of the greatest stars in NBA history, but very soon, even his own teammates began to fear him. Why couldn't teams handle a basketball player considered a unique talent? What destroyed his reputation forever? And how did the journey of a man destined for greatness end? Towards the end, I will share the final day of Reggie Harding, a story that shook the entire basketball world. Watch until the end. Imagine a man who possessed everything needed to become one of the greatest stars in world basketball. Immense height, fantastic physical strength, a talent that amazed even the most experienced coaches. Many were certain he would become the new superstar and change the game forever. But very soon, his name began to be spoken for an entirely different reason. If, like me, you enjoy looking back at the great NBA legends of past decades, and you're interested in their true stories and little-known facts that are rarely talked about, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Your support truly helps the channel grow and makes it possible to bring you more videos like this. Thank you. Now, let's continue. Reggie Harding wasn't just an outstanding basketball player. He became one of the most controversial players of his generation. Some admired his incredible abilities, while others tried to stay as far away from him as possible. He was feared not only by opponents, but by his own teammates as well. Coaches saw immense potential in him, yet understood that managing his temperament was virtually impossible. On the court, Harding looked like a man capable of dominating any opponent. His physical attributes allowed him to do things that seemed almost impossible in the early 60s. He was fast for his size, understood the game exceptionally well, and easily outperformed the strongest high school and young professional basketball players. Many experts said they were witnessing a future major star destined to leave a notable mark on NBA history. Off the court, however, a completely different Reggie Harding existed. His volatility, unpredictability, and constant conflicts gradually began to overshadow even his most brilliant performances. Where others built their careers step by step, he seemed to actively destroy every opportunity fate opened up for him. Each new chance became a trial, and every mistake brought him closer to the moment when those around him would stop believing this talent could still be saved. Over time, his name appeared less beside stories of brilliant matches and more alongside major incidents that shocked the basketball world. A man once called one of the most promising players of his generation gradually found himself on a path leading far away from the dreams of his youth. The finale of this story turned out so heavy that even decades later, many fans ask the exact same question. How could a basketball player with such incredible abilities lose practically everything? That answer cannot be found by looking solely at his professional career. Reggie Harding's story began long before the first major arenas, lucrative contracts, and matches against the country's strongest players. To understand why one of the most gifted basketballists of his time ended up among the most tragic figures in sports history, one must return to Detroit, where his life began, and where the traits that ultimately shaped his entire destiny first manifested. Reggie Harding was born on May 4, 1942, in Detroit, a city that at the time was simultaneously considered America's automotive capital and one of the harshest places to live. While factories operated around the clock, thousands of families simply tried to survive in neighborhoods where poverty, street conflicts, and crime had long become part of daily reality. It was in this atmosphere that the future basketball player spent his childhood. From an early age, Harding learned a simple truth: weakness is not forgiven on the street. Every day demanded the ability to stand up for oneself, and respect had to be earned through strength of character. Many boys dreamed of escaping poor neighborhoods through sports, and Reggie was no exception. But while basketball remained merely a hobby for most, for him, it gradually turned into the only chance to change his life. His natural gifts began to stand out very early. Reggie grew quickly, became stronger than his peers, and literally dominated any game he played. His advantage wasn't just height. Despite his imposing build, he moved surprisingly well, handled the ball with confidence, and wasn't afraid to play rough against any opponent. Even back then, those around him noted that such a combination of physical traits was extremely rare. Yet alongside his basketball talent, another side of his personality grew. Harding flared up easily, reacted painfully to any perceived disrespect, and rarely tried to hold back his emotions. If a conflict arose, he preferred not to walk away, but to meet it head-on. These traits formed over years and gradually became part of his character. On the streets of Detroit, such behavior was seen as a survival mechanism. But in professional sports, these qualities would one day turn into a serious problem. Despite this, basketball continued to open new doors for him. Coaches noticed him almost immediately the moment Reggie stepped onto the court. They saw a young man with outstanding physical capabilities and immense potential, capable of becoming a player of an entirely different level. It seemed that if his energy were channeled in the right direction, a brilliant future awaited him. Very soon, however, it became clear that they would have to work on more than just shooting technique or basketball IQ. With each passing year, Harding's character grew increasingly difficult. Where other young players tried to earn the trust of their mentors, he continually tested the boundaries of what was permitted. His talent continued to grow at an incredible pace, but so did the number of people wondering whether this guy would ever learn to control himself. The answer to that question began to emerge during his high school years, when Reggie Harding turned into a true sensation of American basketball. It was then that the entire country first saw a player whom some considered a future legend and others viewed as a man capable of destroying his own career before it truly began. When Reggie Harding started playing for his high school team, talk about him quickly spread far beyond Detroit. Each new match only strengthened his reputation as one of the country's most talented young players. Fans came to watch not just another team victory, but a basketball player who already looked stronger than most opponents and played as if he were several years older than the rest. Standing around 6 feet 10 inches tall, Harding possessed rare mobility for that era. He easily won battles under the basket, collected rebounds, finished plays with confidence, and didn't lose speed to shorter players. His physical superiority combined with a good understanding of the game, leaving opponents often powerless. Some coaches later admitted they rarely saw high schoolers like him. A real buzz quickly formed around his name. Newspapers wrote about the new phenomenon, and experts seriously discussed how high he could climb in professional sports. Many were convinced Harding would become one of the defining stars of his generation. His potential seemed practically boundless, and it looked like nothing but a rapid ascent lay ahead. Yet it was precisely during this period that events began to unfold which forced people to speak about him in an entirely different tone. Almost every news story about brilliant play was accompanied by tales of his explosive temper. Reggie struggled to accept remarks, reacted painfully to criticism, and could fly off the handle in mere seconds. If someone tried to put him in his place, conflict became almost inevitable. Sometimes tension flared right during practice, other times outside the venue. Gradually, it became obvious that his main opponent wasn't the team across the court. Coaches found themselves in a difficult spot. On one hand, they had a unique talent who couldn't simply be benched. On the other, discipline became an escalating problem. Every time they had to choose between the desire to win and the necessity of maintaining internal order. As long as Harding delivered results, many were willing to overlook his behavior, but everyone understood this couldn't go on forever. His name grew more famous, but alongside fame came a reputation as a man impossible to control. Even those who genuinely admired his play began doubting whether he could realize his massive potential. Basketball was opening doors to a great future for him, but his character seemed intent on slamming them shut early. Despite all the warning signs, professional basketball continued to wait for Reggie Harding. For many clubs, the risk seemed justified. A player with such natural gifts appears too rarely to pass up simply because of a difficult personality. The next step was approaching, a transition to an entirely different level where his talent deserved a chance to fully blossom. Back then, almost no one suspected that the hardest part of his story was about to begin. An opportunity that thousands of young basketball players across America dreamed of was opening up for Reggie Harding. Scouts, coaches, and professional club executives already knew his name. They understood they were dealing with a player possessing a rare combination of height, strength, and mobility. Despite all talk of his difficult character, walking away from such talent was practically impossible. In the early 60s, Harding became one of the first basketball players to jump straight to professional basketball right out of high school, bypassing the traditional college route. At the time, such occurrences were exceedingly rare. Most future stars spent several years in the collegiate league, gaining experience before reaching the pro teams. Reggie's story looked like an exception that only highlighted how highly specialists rated his abilities. In 1962, he was drafted by the Indianapolis Olympians, playing in the newly created American Basketball League. Although that league was short-lived, it served as an important milestone for Harding. For the first time, he found himself among adult professionals, where every minute on the court had to be earned not through a famous name, but real play. He quickly proved he could meet the highest expectations. His physical superiority didn't vanish. Even against experienced players, Harding felt confident under the basket, imposed his will on older opponents, and regularly delivered plays that made fans leap from their seats. It seemed numerous predictions were beginning to come true. However, along with successful professional play came old problems. Where discipline and a readiness to learn were expected from young players, Harding increasingly acted by his own rules. He found it hard to accept coaching demands, follow established routines, and control his emotions during high-pressure moments. Each such situation gradually eroded the trust of people who had recently been ready to place a massive bet on him. Yet the level of his talent remained so high that doors to the premier basketball league in the country stayed open. NBA scouts understood perfectly that players with such physical traits appeared once in a blue moon. If someone could channel his character correctly, a new superstar could be born. There was just one catch. With each passing month, it became clearer that Harding wasn't changing. On the contrary, his belief in his own exceptionalism only fueled his desire to live by his own rules. To some, this looked like strong character. To others, a warning signal that could not be ignored. Very soon, Reggie got the chance to step onto the grandest stage of world basketball. Full arenas, massive contracts, and the status of a new star seemed to await him. But alongside this began a period where his main opponent was no longer on the court, but inside himself. Upon entering professional basketball, Reggie Harding found himself in a world where talent alone was no longer enough. Here, every player possessed high skill levels, and a spot in the rotation had to be earned through both brilliant play and a professional attitude. It was at this stage that it became definitively clear Harding's main problem was never his athletic abilities. Coaches still saw enormous potential in him. During games, he could dominate under the basket, win tough contests, and execute plays unavailable to most centers of that era. On certain nights, it seemed he truly was capable of becoming one of the best players of his epoch. But by the next day, another conflict would wipe out all positive impressions. Harding increasingly entered disputes with mentors and reacted painfully to any attempts to limit him or point out his mistakes. He disliked being told how to play or how to behave off the court. When situations heated up, emotions quickly overpowered common sense. Over time, he built a reputation as a man with whom no one could guarantee a calm tomorrow. Teammates had it just as tough. Some respected him for his outstanding skill, but many understood any minor issue could erupt into serious conflict. Internal tension gradually became a constant companion for the teams Harding played on. Instead of uniting players around a shared goal, his personality frequently generated new problems. The most surprising part was that all this unfolded against the backdrop of genuinely strong play. Club executives tried over and over to convince themselves the situation could still be fixed. It seemed all they needed was the right approach, a suitable coach, or a little more time for the talent to fully blossom. But every new chance ended similarly. Gradually, trust began to dissolve. People who once saw Harding as a future team leader increasingly questioned whether to tie long-term plans to him. Even the most impressive plays lost their impact because everyone knew tomorrow was a complete unknown. One reckless action could wipe out weeks of good work. For Reggie himself, this proved especially dangerous. He kept believing raw talent alone was enough to keep professional basketball doors permanently open. But reality was entirely different. At the highest level of sports, reputation matters just as much as statistics, and the trust of peers sometimes proves more valuable than the brightest matches. Soon, Harding received a chance to prove himself in the National Basketball Association. It was there that it would finally be decided whether he could live up to expectations following him since adolescence, or if his difficult temperament would prove stronger than his outstanding basketball skills. In 1962, Reggie Harding was selected in the NBA draft by the Detroit Pistons. For a kid raised in Detroit, it looked like a dream come true. However, due to league rules at the time, he couldn't start playing for the team immediately and spent time in other professional leagues. When Harding finally debuted in the NBA, it was obvious his talent hadn't disappeared. He acted confidently under the basket, scored points, and grabbed rebounds. But along with good play, his old problems entered the league as well. Conflicts arose more frequently, and disciplinary infractions gradually overshadowed athletic achievements. Even the most patient coaches understood that keeping such a player became increasingly difficult. Transfers from one team to another no longer looked like a normal part of a career. Every new club hoped it would be the one to unlock Harding's potential, but history repeated itself over and over. After the Detroit Pistons, he ended up with the Chicago Bulls, but didn't stay long there either. His playing time decreased, management's trust vanished, and his reputation worsened. By the late 60s, NBA doors practically closed. A man once called one of the most talented basketball players of his generation found himself without a stable spot in the strongest league in the world. Following his career, Harding's life spiraled downward rapidly. He increasingly faced legal troubles, found himself in dangerous situations, and gradually lost touch with big-time basketball. The fame that recently opened doors for him vanished. With it went stable income, press attention, and the support of many people. His name was recalled less for sports achievements and more for events happening far beyond the court. A man who could have been a legend ended up practically alone with his struggles. In the summer of 1972, Reggie Harding's story reached a tragic finale. An armed conflict occurred in Detroit during which the former basketball player sustained fatal injuries. He was only 30 years old. The news shocked those who remembered his incredible talent. Many couldn't believe a man once considered the future face of professional basketball had passed away so young and under such circumstances. His destiny became one of the saddest examples of how extraordinary abilities alone do not guarantee a great future. Reggie Harding's story is not merely a tale of an unfulfilled sports career. It is a reminder of how crucial it is to control one's own decisions, even when the whole world admires your talent. His physical gifts were unique, but his character proved stronger than his natural endowment. Perhaps under different circumstances, Harding truly would have become one of the largest stars of his generation. Today, his name is more often recalled as a symbol of immense potential that never managed to be realized. If you are interested in real stories of other NBA legends, Make sure to watch the next videos on our channel. The links to the most interesting ones have already appeared on screen.